Hello and welcome to the December 5th regular Legislative Committee meeting of the Town of Vegreville. Call the meeting to order at 3:01, and I'll be looking for a motion to accept the agenda. Councillor Rudick, is there any additions or deletions to the agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor, carried. Next, the adoption of the minutes of our last regular legislative meeting. Councillor Lemko gets in there in a hurry. Is there any errors or omissions within those minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor, carried. So, first up, we have a delegation. And I do believe that Emma Wallace will be online. And we have some other guests with us today. So let's just start with Natasha. Introduce yourself, please.
Hello, I'm Tasha Barfoot, Housing and Basic Needs Task Force Coordinator. Just a little bit of a background before Emma gets on, if that's all right. The task force sort of came about as community-based organizations, nonprofits, churches, and residents individually recognized a pressing need for housing and basic needs supports. Responding to this, they united to establish a task force to tackle the issue. However, securing grants and funding and initiating projects requires data. And to gather that data, the Rural Development Network was hired via some Reaching Home grant funding to design a survey, which community organizations then administered. Emma Wallace will be joining us today to present the outcomes.
Okay, so there's a number of people behind you. I'm hoping they're not disgruntled citizens of town.
These are some of my task force members.
Could you introduce them, please?
Absolutely. We have Catherine Gagnon with AHS. We have Linda Wilkinson, our community member and member of the SDA Church. And we have Joanna here from the food bank.
Nice to see you all. Okay, well, if Emma's going to make the presentation, take it away.
Alrighty. Hi, everyone. Just going to get my screen share going here. Okay, I think we're working well. I'm working off two screens here, so I'm looking at all of you, but I'm also looking at my second screen. But hi, everyone. My name is Emma Wallace, and I'm the Project Manager of Community Development and Homelessness Estimations at RDN. And I've been working, as Tasha said, with the Housing and Basic Needs Task Force in Vegreville on this project for the past year, I guess, past 6 or 8 months. And I just want to spend a little bit of time today sharing some of the project results. Before we get started, I do want to take a moment to acknowledge that RDN's physical office is located on the traditional territories of Treaty 6 and is home to many Métis and Inuit peoples. And then I'm located in Ottawa on the unceded Anishinaabe and Algonquin territories. So Tasha gave a great kind of introduction on the task force and also kind of a main reason on why we did this project. But I also just want to highlight kind of the purpose that the task force identified as it relates to the housing and service needs estimation. And that was really kind of threefold. We wanted to provide a comprehensive picture of homelessness in Vegreville. We wanted to help inform service providers and municipal, provincial, and federal policies, practices, and funding decisions related to housing, homelessness, and support services. And then, maybe most importantly, we're really looking to elevate and incorporate the voices of folks who are experiencing homelessness in some of the solutions to end homelessness. And before I dive into the results, I want to make sure that we're all on the same page by outlining the definitions of homelessness that I'll use throughout today's presentation and that we also used in the report. These definitions were created by the Canadian Observatory on Homelessness, and they've been adopted by the federal government. And basically, they highlight the different circumstances that can be experienced by someone who is homeless. So, for example, someone who's sleeping outside would be considered unsheltered. Someone staying in a women's or domestic violence shelter would be considered emergency shelter. If someone was couch surfing, sleeping in an abandoned building, or in overcrowded or damaged housing, inadequate housing, they would be considered provisionally accommodated. And then we also have this last category of at risk of homelessness, which is really talking about folks whose housing situation is precarious. Maybe they're kind of behind on their rent or on their mortgages. They've just lost their job and they're not sure what they're going to do for their next month's rent or the next mortgage payment, that type of thing. So for today's presentation and throughout the report, you'll notice that I use the term housing insecure as an umbrella term to encompass this entire spectrum of homelessness. I just want to talk quickly about some of the methodology, kind of how we did this project. So we followed methodology that's employed in the step-by-step guide to estimating rural, remote, and Indigenous homelessness, which is basically we used a service-based population estimation approach to enumerating homelessness. And what this means is that we partnered with service agencies in Vegreville to administer surveys in the community over a 60-day period. And that was from March 1st to April 30th. And most of these agencies, I think, are represented on the task force. And then at the end of the enumeration period, so at the end of those 60 days, we received 236 surveys across the community. 66 of those were excluded because they were lacking consent. And so as a result, 170 surveys were deemed suitable for further analysis, and they're the basis of today's presentation and the report results. So the rest of the presentation will focus on highlighting those results, and then I'll have a little bit at the end on some kind of opportunities for Vegreville moving forward. So, analysis on the 170 survey responses indicated that 148 respondents were experiencing housing insecurity according to those national definitions of homelessness. What is quite interesting is that only 45 of these respondents actually self-identified as housing insecure when they were asked if they considered their housing situation to be unstable or felt like they might easily lose their housing. So many of the respondents who self-identified as housing secure noted that they either owned or rented their home, but then they also indicated in the survey that they didn't have access to things like safe drinking water or electricity, for example, which tells us that according to the national definitions, they'd actually be considered housing insecure. And why I find this particularly interesting is because it means that not only did 103 housing insecure respondents, were they unaware of the fact that their housing situation would be considered insecure, but maybe more importantly, it's a bit of a major, like a cause of concern, right? Because respondents who identify as housing secure are much less likely to be accessing the supports and the services that could really help improve their housing situation. So on top of the 148 housing insecure respondents, we identified 86 dependents under 18 and 156 additional adults as sharing insecure housing conditions with respondents. So this means that based on the survey results, there are at least 390 community members experiencing housing insecurity in Vegreville. And what's important to remember here is that this does not mean that there are 100 or 390 community members who are unsheltered, but that there are 390 community members who are housing insecure. So they fall somewhere on that spectrum of homelessness, whether it's unsheltered, emergency sheltered, provisionally accommodated, or at risk of homelessness. And the top three reasons for housing insecurity in Vegreville were reported as low wages, and inability to afford rent or mortgage payments, and mental health issues. So for the sake of time, I'm not going to go through all of the survey respondent demographics, but I did want to highlight some of the demographic information provided by survey respondents. So 63% of respondents identified as female compared to 33% as male. Additionally, 3% of respondents were either trans male or gender nonconforming. 11% of survey respondents self-identified as Indigenous, and then 5% of respondents were between 14 and 19 years old, 29% between 20 and 39 years old, and then 66% were over 40. Now, based on these respondents' demographics, and specifically based on kind of housing insecure respondents' demographics, we're able to identify a few kind of concerning trends. First, we determined that 100% of Indigenous respondents are housing insecure. We also discovered that 100% of 2S LGBTQIA+ respondents are housing insecure, and 100% of the respondents who were born outside of Canada are housing insecure. So these are some pretty significant and concerning trends, which kind of seem to suggest that minority or vulnerable population groups are experiencing housing insecurity at staggering rates in Vegreville. I will say that this is not a trend that is unique to Vegreville. This is a trend we're seeing in communities across the country, but still something I wanted to highlight with everyone today. So, we asked folks to talk a little bit about their employment histories with us in the survey, and what we found is that 63% of housing insecure respondents were employed in some capacity at the time of the survey. 52% of those employed housing insecure respondents worked full-time, 27% worked part-time, 5% worked casual positions, and then 14% noted other to their work situation, and they stated that they worked either contract work, were employed seasonally, or were self-employed. We also asked folks to indicate their approximate household income for 2022 to kind of correspond, I guess, with the employment information. 40% of housing insecure respondents noted an annual household income of less than $30,000, while 15% note an annual household income of $30,000 to $50,000. So despite the fact that 63% of housing insecure respondents are employed in some capacity, 55% reported an annual household income of $50,000 or less last year. And I think that it's really important to take a minute here and re-emphasize that. So 63% of housing insecure respondents are employed in some capacity. One of the myths or misconceptions that I hear probably most often in my role is that people experiencing housing insecurity should just get a job. And I think, you know, what this data is telling us, or what this is showing us, is that not only do a majority of housing insecure respondents already have a job, but that the income in that job isn't actually enough for them right now. So it's just something I kind of wanted to flag. A big component of the survey and the project is also to get a better picture of service use and service gaps in the community. So to do this, we ask a series of questions around respondents' use of services, their ability to access services, that type of thing. So the top 3 reasons that housing insecure respondents access services in Vegreville were for health and wellness services. So this could be anything from like medical appointments, eye care appointments, psychiatric appointments, any of that type of thing. Help with basic needs. This is often accessing food support, shelter support, that type of thing. And then support services, which can be anything from like income support or otherwise. And then in speaking to service use and service gaps, lack of transportation was identified as a major barrier for respondents. Again, this isn't something that's super unique to a community like Vegreville. Community members in rural, remote, and Indigenous communities often have to travel outside of their community to access services, whether that's medical services or otherwise. And so lack of transportation can really prohibit many housing insecure respondents from accessing these services. In Vegreville specifically, respondents noted traveling about an average of 1 hour each way to access services that weren't already located in the community. And then wanting to provide respondents with the opportunity to share some of their insights about Vegreville, we asked them, what are 2 things that you love about the community and 2 things that maybe you don't love so much about the community? In terms of things they love, respondents, both housing secure and insecure, overwhelmingly spoke of their love for the sense of community and the community lifestyle, which was really great to hear. We don't often hear that, to be honest, in communities that we're working with. So respondents really love how friendly and welcoming everyone is, and how Vegreville really feels like a true community where people care. And then respondents also talked a lot about enjoying how small the community is and how kind of quiet and peaceful the atmosphere is. In terms of things that respondents maybe don't love as much, both housing secure and housing insecure respondents spoke to like seemingly increasing crime rates and a lack of services. So specifically, respondents indicated a lack of childcare options, healthcare services, social services, and then emergency shelter and affordable housing in the community. And then what was kind of interesting is that we also detected a bit of an undercurrent of discrimination or kind of a lack of empathy towards housing insecure respondents while in analyzing these qualitative results. So at the same time that pretty much everyone, both housing secure and insecure respondents, stated how friendly and kind and caring everyone was, we were also kind of detecting these undercurrents of, you know, respondents highlighting kind of rude and judgmental behavior towards housing insecure respondents, some stigmas or judgments attached to folks who are experiencing mental health crises, struggling with substance use issues, and or who are accessing AISH. So kind of a bit of a duality there in people's experiences. We also gave respondents the opportunity to tell us what they want to see more of in Vegreville. So 52% of respondents believe that more accessible and affordable housing is needed in Vegreville. And this includes wanting to see more family-friendly and seniors-friendly affordable housing units. Interestingly, both housing secure and insecure respondents also highlighted a need for more rental units to become available in the community at both below market and regular market rates. So seeing just kind of a general lack of housing in the community. And then others emphasize the need for emergency shelter and specifically a women's or domestic violence shelter in Vegreville. And then kind of linking back to my point earlier about transportation, 71% of respondents believe that more public transportation is needed in the community. So I've kind of thrown a lot of information at you in a short period of time, but I want to take the last minute or so of my presentation to just kind of highlight some of the opportunities that RDN has identified as kind of next steps in addressing housing insecurity in the community. So we've identified 4 opportunities that Vegreville can kind of start to undertake or address. And they would be fostering community awareness and understanding of housing insecurity and homelessness, increasing accessibility to services in and around the community, and conducting a an audit of service offerings in Vegreville, I should say, sorry. And then I've left the last opportunity, which is to explore short and long-term housing solutions in the community, off the slide deck intentionally, because while it's very critical to address housing insecurity in the community, it's also the biggest undertaking. So I wanted to highlight these 3 opportunities first as kind of what I think are first steps for the community to think about in their journey towards addressing housing insecurity, while also recognizing that it will be very difficult to ultimately address or quote unquote solve housing insecurity or homelessness without also considering improving short and long-term housing solutions in Vegreville. So that, again, kind of a condensed version of everything I wanted to share with you today. I went over the report and all of the results at a really high level, so please feel free to review the entire report in more detail. I believe it's in your information package. In the meantime, I'm available for questions, and then I'm also available for questions in the coming weeks if anything comes up later. So, thank you.
Thank you. At this time, does anybody have a question for Emma? Go ahead, Councillor Bullock.
A question that I have, when it comes to the transportation part, for transportation, what area was it mostly lacking in? Was it for health services or for just accessing other things out of the community, or what was it?
Yeah, that's a great question. Leaving the community for medical services was the main reason that folks were really struggling. A lot of respondents noted the lack of kind of medical services available in the community and like specialized medical or healthcare related services. And then it was also highlighted quite a few times that because there's no emergency shelter in the community and folks have to travel outside the community for that shelter, it became quite difficult.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Councillor Barrett.
Thank you, Worship. Very good presentation. I like the information you're providing. One question I wanted, as if you know, as a comparison, you're referring to about 390 community members, which I would estimate that's just in the vicinity of 7% of our population. How does that rank with a lot of other communities related to their population?
Yeah, that's a really great question. In Alberta, that's pretty much on par, to be honest. That's kind of like that 5 to 10% is the range we're seeing in most rural communities in Alberta right now. Typically, smaller communities reach higher than, reach that kind of closer to 10%, and the larger rural communities are closer to the 5%. So, this is obviously an issue that's happening across the country right now. We are in a bit of a housing crisis and a cost of living crisis. So that, again, not a unique problem to Vegreville, and I would say, as a community, you're very much on par with where everyone else is at.
Thank you.
So Emma, maybe you could help us out a little bit. You were saying that the lack of affordable housing was identified in your survey. How can a municipality take on a situation to help somebody provide below market value rent in a property? I don't see what our role would be there.
Yeah, that's awesome. That there's not only that you're asking the question, but that you're kind of curious about it at all. There's kind of a few different ways that municipalities can support this type of project or this type of work. The first is really in supporting organizations who are interested in whether it's providing like rental support to developers or organizations who are looking to kind of offer below market rate units, is like a zoning. There's often zoning requirements attached to that, and so working with service agencies to address those zoning requirements and those zoning needs to best meet the municipality's needs, but also kind of the services that the organization is looking to offer is kind of a really big first step. That's kind of where a lot of organizations and developers get stuck, is trying to muddle their way through kind of rezoning requirements. Another way to do this is oftentimes grants, like grants to funding agencies around whether it's to develop housing units or just to implement kind of rental assistance programs that would offer below market rate. They require commitment from a municipality. It doesn't necessarily have to be commitment in terms of dollars. Sometimes it's enough to just say we're behind this organization, we support them, and providing a bit of a letter of support to say, you know, we know what they're doing and we believe in their goal with this project. Sometimes it is commitment in terms of dollars, but so having a municipality as a key partner in this type of project sees these projects be exponentially more successful than projects that are trying to move forward without the support of their municipality. Ultimately, the federal government wants to see partnership between municipal and provincial governments in kind of that key relationship to do housing-related projects. So I've gone off a little bit in terms of your question, but yeah, I think the biggest thing in this in terms of like municipality role is providing that kind of relationship support, and then also that kind of commitment in terms of like we back our organizations in their work. We're here to support them.
Well, I would just like it to be known to the residents of Vegreville that are watching, we have reached out and offered land to developers and people that want to do this type of housing in town, and due to some programs that were canceled through CMHC, the one grant that was the provincial grant, it was oversubscribed, it was closed down. We are waiting in line right now for the grant to open. There seems to be a lot of noise coming from the federal government regarding money that's going to be put into this. They announce the funding, but they never tell you when it's going to be made available. So I know myself and Jameson, we've talked to developers over the last year, and you know, every time we try to get something rolling here for this, it just seems like every level of government is shutting the door on it, and as a municipality, and it's hard for us to take, you know, property tax dollars to put towards it, but when we can partner with available land in town and supporting, you know, public support for what they're doing, but it just seems that the will of both levels of a government, it's all they talk about it on a lot in the Ledge and in the House of Commons, and every time there's a camera in front of them, but when you go to access this, the funding's never there. I do believe that we really have a rental shortage in town at below market rent, and just every day for people to rent to get out of some of the places they're in. I didn't know that when I was 19 and 21, 22, 23 that I was housing insecure. I had no idea. Somehow at the end of the month, we come up with the rent. We didn't know it at the time. But that's the way we're, so young people, a lot of young people, I would imagine, were in the same boat I was at 19 and to 25. You have a question, Councillor Rudick?
I do. I guess the only thing I would say is, Your Worship, the majority of the people that have responded are at a stage of their life that they would hope to be more secure. So I guess that's the part that's more concerning, that 40 and above are the ones that are the majority of those that are housing insecure. So that's a statistic that's alarming. One of my colleagues says the feds have the money, the province has the jurisdiction, and in municipalities, this is where the housing reality is felt the worst or the most deeply. And so it's a bit of a challenge. The mayor has highlighted that there is very little that we can do. I wonder if you have at your behest there the number of affordable housing or the percentage that Alberta has at its disposal, because Alberta is far behind the national average. So Vegreville is no different than that. And I think as a province, a lot of the participation in affordable housing has actually been through the lodge program that's provided to seniors. And so council has participated in a variety of different roles through our department, I guess, with FCSS doing this housing inventory, but we've also, through our lodge program, done a housing needs assessment for expansion of the lodge program for seniors, with the intention also of providing this data for developers. So we've got three different pockets of folks that are actually looking for housing. All that to say that we all know people that are having a tough time finding anything to buy, anything to rent, and being able to come here as a business is a challenge when your workers can't be here. So I'm wondering if you have that statistic at your hands there, Emma, the percentage of affordable housing that's available in Alberta as compared to other parts in the country, because I can't think of the number offhand, but it's drastically below the national average.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of it offhand as well. I know that it's quite a bit lower, like you said. Alberta has one of the kind of lowest rates or lowest opportunities for accessing affordable housing in the country. I can't remember it off the top of my head, and I'm trying to dig through my files here to pull it up. But while I kind of dig, what I will say is yeah, I mean, Canada as a whole is very far behind in kind of social housing infrastructure. 20 years ago, there was a decision made to kind of stop investing in social infrastructure, and it's caught up to us now as a country, especially in the midst of kind of what the federal government is identifying as a housing crisis and a kind of cost of living crisis. Alberta specifically is even further behind than the rest of the country in that. And so I think one of the reasons that I highlighted the other three opportunities on the screen before noting the need for kind of housing is because it's going to take years to get housing in any of these communities, Vegreville included. As Mr. Mayor, you've kind of identified, there's lots of kind of issues and barriers in place to successfully implementing affordable housing or even below market rate programs. And for communities who have no issues or kind of no barriers to that, it still takes years and years to kind of successfully implement these programs. And so I think as we work nationally to address this, and then hopefully as it filters down into kind of more rural communities, recognizing that there are other steps in the meantime that we've got to kind of address as well. So not the best answer to your question, I recognize. I'm still not finding that stat in my files right now, but if it comes up, I'll pop it in the chat or something.
Thank you. Sorry, that was a very specific question, but I suffice it to say, I think that's something that we're experiencing here too, is that even just, some of the wider report highlights the challenge between rental properties as compared to owned properties in Vegreville, and the disparity between what needs to be available for people that are moving in or moving within the community. Needs to be more rental properties, and even just the news that one of the subsidized housing units was sold privately is a bit of a challenge that I've been hearing through other committees too. So thank you very much.
Okay, Councillor Curtis.
Thank you. Thank you, Emma, for the presentation. I think we have some good opportunities here. I know we're starting to work on a transportation committee in town here, so I think that, an ad hoc committee, mind you, but looking to get some more funding and grants brought in so that we can help, whether it is with healthcare, whether it is around town. I think we have a very good opportunity there. With the shakeup at AHS, I noticed mental health was a topic. The mental health is going to be a branch of AHS. It's going to be its own pillar sort of there now. So I think some advocacy there to get the workers in the towns that are needed, which Vegreville, as we always say, is a hub. So the more support we have there can take some of those stresses off the people that are feeling this way. So, not all bad news, but I think we have some opportunities right now to take some of this data and push a little bit to see if we can get some of these resources brought to our community. And thank you again.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. CAO Ling, did you have a question? Okay. Well, thank you very much, Emma, for the presentation and work you've done on this. And I know that if there's any way that we can make a difference as a council and a municipality, well, we can't let the other two levels of government download all this responsibility on a municipality. We have a hard time keeping up with this, clearing the snow. Well, not today, but normally. So you've done this work for other municipalities as well?
Yeah, several municipalities. We've worked with over 50 municipalities in Alberta, and then probably about the same across the country as well. Many communities are struggling right now with housing, and but we've kind of seen really great success from communities who are able to leverage this data to whether it's provincial and federal governments or to funders or even just to kind of like AHS, for example, or other kind of services to say, hey, this is an issue in our community, like, let's chat to see how we can address this together. So my hope is that this data will support you all and the task force in kind of, leveraging some of the opportunities that were just highlighted, and also maybe kind of addressing or kind of developing new partnerships and opportunities across the community.
Before you go, Emma, where are you at?
I'm actually located in Ottawa, so I'm across the country here in Ontario.
Did you get any snow yesterday?
We sure did. We got about 2 feet. We had quite the snowstorm. It was the best. I'm a winter fan, so I'm very thrilled.
Okay, well, again, thank you very much. And we will put this data together and make use of it so thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Natasha. What's the plan?
The plan is to get some balls rolling. We've got the task force talking about projects and grants that we can apply for, and our ask is really just that you keep this in mind when the community organizations do come with any projects or proposals, and make an informed decision.
So, on your task force, if we find a developer and we try to find out what the needs are, you'll be able to provide that for us. If we find somebody that's willing to come here to build some of these projects that are needed, we can count on your task force for some input.
Well, it would be up to our task force organizations to hold the ball, but we absolutely are armed with community data, both via the survey and anecdotal, to inform any decisions you might want to make moving forward.
So if we were to help sponsor some grant applications, your task force could supply us with some data to support those grant applications.
100%.
Okay. That sounds good, because we're already trying to put this together, so
Beautiful.
we will be looking for some help from your task force.
Absolutely.
So what else do you have? Oh, we have a question in the back.
No, I just wanted to add, so this is my own opinion, separate from the task force. They don't know I was gonna say this. So it's nice to hear that you guys are trying to go. I want to keep in mind, so I used to live in Maple Ridge. There was no tent city there. There is one there now. We don't really have tent cities here because it's too cold, but I guess I just want to throw the idea out there that we're in the preventative stage now. We have the option to prevent that from happening in our community. Once you have a tent city, you've got a tent city. You're definitely going to have people in here talking to you about it, whether you think it's your job or not to deal with it, right? So I guess that's just where when I hear that, I get a little bit worried that, it's going to kind of fall off the shelf because the federal government didn't do what they need to do, and they didn't do what they need to do. So everyone's just going to kind of forget about it, and then 5 years from now, we're really going to be feeling it that we don't have it. So I just kind of, for all of us, just be like, we have the chance to prevent that from happening. Honestly, once you get a tent city, as far as I can tell, you can't get rid of it. That's it. You've got one. So that's my 2 cents.
Well, and again,
Tasha, I didn't realize you had more to say. Okay.
we do appreciate your input, and we've seen situations in other municipalities, but then again, the municipality is not responsible for those needs again. So I know that in the last year, we've taken a very active role trying to bring somebody into town to supply this type of housing that's needed, and plus just more rental units. Whereas we're trying to attract more industry to town, one of the biggest questions is, how are you planning on housing these employees? And along with that, we've talked to developers and they were asking how we feel about other type of housing, where affordable housing, where there's a lot more grants available for that. And again, we're on board with that. But as, you know, people need to understand, there's only so many things you can do with tax dollars from property taxes. And we see a great load of downloading by both levels of government. And they make it look like that we should be the ones that are partnering with them and offering money. When again, the only source of income we have is from property taxes. So people that are maybe doing okay today, working very hard to, you know, both people in the household trying to raise a family, the only way that we can participate with monetary values, money value worth, is to go and tax those people. So we've looked at it in the situation that if we can make a land available to developers to be part of that grant application, that's what we feel is a sensible way to go. Because again, we can't take on the responsibility of the federal and provincial governments when it comes to money, unless we could start taking income tax off of people, but I don't see that happening anytime soon, so.
I think it's also important to note too, the amount of advocacy that town council has done as well on this topic, and others as well. So maybe that's something too that the task force could look at, is their role in advocacy on the issue too, so that there's to the federal and to the provincial government.
Well, it was nice for Emma to say that people on the survey say they really like this community for sense of community and stuff. And then I do agree that, I mean, we are a great community. And if there's anything that we can do, like we're full of try, we're full of effort, we'll take a swing at it for sure. And I feel that we're there right now. I mean, I hope some of these rules will change, and I hope that these grant applications will open up. We're told one in Alberta will open it in February sometime, and we're trying to have our application ready for the day it opens. So.
Absolutely. Y'all work hard to make this a great place to live, and thank you for your future support.
Excellent. Any other questions?
And I know, much bigger municipality. Edmonton was offering, if you were able to develop your home to allow somebody that needed low rental, they provided some sort of incentive for that, and I don't remember what it was. And I'm just wondering if that's something that council has looked at, or if that's even possible here.
I don't think in the residential area that we've looked at helping people afford to put in a second suite or to help carry, you know, somebody that wants to bring in a renter.
It was for residents that wouldn't charge, at the time, and this was maybe at least 5 years ago that I was looking at it. I think it was no more than $800 a month, so it would be, you know, for somebody that really wanted to help out, it wouldn't necessarily be for a lot of income for them. But I think it was help to develop something so that it could be used for low rental housing.
Well, I know that zoning is easy here, and we've been very good, I think, and very fast on our feet when we recognize some of the zoning issues in the past for multi-family dwellings, from moving from single-family zoning, and we're ready for that type of development. I don't know how it would look or how that was done in Edmonton, where the municipality assisted money-wise to help someone develop a piece of property, or they gave them lower taxes if they brought somebody in. I'm not sure how that was.
I'm not 100% sure. I could check into it, but I do remember that was something my husband and I looked at one point in time.
And again, if we give somebody a tax break, everybody else is gonna want a tax break. And then if we give somebody a tax break, we gotta charge somebody else more taxes to make up for the difference. So as a municipality, our hands are limited. We can't pass a budget where we're, you know, in a deficit. You know, the province is in charge of how we operate, and you know, there's very limited things that we can do. But being a partner and, you know, being as quick as we can to change zoning to help a developer come into town to build fourplexes and duplexes, that's something that we feel that we can do. Councillor Barry?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just wondering, I know that major cities seem to be able to get grants for a lot of different things. I'm just wondering if there's any chance that they got a federal or provincial grant to help try and solve their low-income housing crunches that they have.
It's possible.
Because if that was available, then we could try and go after grants like that ourselves.
Possible. I could do a bit of digging to find out how they were, and even if they're still offering that.
Yeah, I know they relaxed things a number of years ago to allow people to convert above their garages and such to allow rentals and et cetera. And, you know, so basement suites and et cetera. I'm just wondering if, in terms of a subsidized low income, if they were able to tap into some grant that we're not aware of. Yeah.
Well, whatever your findings are with your task force, please keep us updated.
Absolutely.
And knowing full well that we are out trying to make this work, you know, trying to find developers that are willing to take on and partner in these grant applications to bring more rental properties to town, so. Anything else? Okay, well, thank you all for coming and your input, and we'll be talking.
Thank you so much.
Okay, up next is a subdivision application on Prosperity Park, and I think CAO Ling, you'll be bringing this? Or who's doing it? Or is it Jameson?
No, Your Worship, it will be me. If I can actually get council to just refresh their agendas. I noticed the actual application wasn't on the memo. It is now, and I'm having Jameson throw the actual lots up on the TV screens for you to see. So the background on this is November 17, 2023, Planning and Development created an application for the subdivision approval to subdivide Prosperity Industrial Park into 17 parcels ranging from 1.73 acres to 22.16 acres. The financial implications of this subdivision are in advertising, because the subdivision application will have to be advertised for 2 consecutive weeks in the local newspaper as per the MGA. The communication strategy is, once approved to proceed with the process, the subdivision authority officer will, as per the Municipal Government Act, send notification to the subdivision of the subdivision application to the government departments, persons, and local authorities as required by the subdivision development regulation, the adjacent landowners, and post on the town's website and social media. So the options today for council are to review the subdivision application and approve the process to proceed, or to deny the application.
Okay. Thank you. Discussion? The only problem I see right now is that I know that there's some people waiting to see what's going to happen here. And they're looking at probably smaller parcels. So then, I know that Director Lefebvre isn't here right now. So how would that work? We would go in and now subdivide another subdivision within the lots at the park? Is that how we do that?
Yes, we'd have to do a change to a specific area.
Okay. I mean, the smallest being 1.73 acres, you know, an acre of land for a small business is actually quite a bit. I mean, you look at how many businesses today in this community are less than half an acre. But if that's the case, and I guess moving forward, we'd have to just determine along a serviced part along the road and what we would be willing to break into smaller pieces. But if nobody has any other questions about this, so we'll see this on Monday at the meeting, I guess.
Yes, this will come up on Monday.
Okay. Excellent. Who is doing the fees and charges bylaw?
That would be me.
You're everybody today, eh?
It's a one-person show here today. Okay, so, you will see the fees and, the draft fees and charges bylaw for 2024 fees and charges, is attached. So the Town of Vegreville's fees and charges bylaw is reviewed and revised annually to reflect the changes made to the town budget and the needs of the organization and facilities. The draft 2024 fees and charges bylaw is being presented to council for discussion and will be brought back for all 3 readings on the December 11th council meeting. Due to illness, the following schedules have not been fully reviewed yet. Schedule B, the airport fees and charges. Schedule E, building permit fees. Schedule F, business license fees. Schedule G, cemetery fees. Schedule L, labor, equipment, and vehicle rental rates. Schedule Q, planning and development fees. Schedule T, signage permit fees. And Schedule U, snow haul permit fees. And just of note, Schedule L, the labor, equipment, and vehicle rental rates, we use the provincial government rates, and they don't come until the end of the provincial fiscal year, so which would be April. So there's the likelihood, if there's big changes in there, that we may have to do an amendment to the fees and charges bylaw to increase just that section. So any revisions to these schedules will be made before Monday, December 11th. These changes will be discussed at the council meeting prior to all 3 readings. So if we go into the bylaw, Schedule A, under administrative fees, the only change there is the charge for adding the amounts to the tax roll. We have increased it from $0 to $25. Schedule D, arena admission fees and charges. The fees for arena admissions will be increasing effective September 1st, 2024. They have been added to the bylaw so leagues can be notified early and prepare for the change. So currently, because hockey runs through the fall until the spring, so it runs from September till about March, the existing agreements that we have with the users are already in place with the current rates. So these will be for the fall season. So the ice surface youth local per hour increases from $89 to $95, so an increase of $6. Adult local per hour increases from $154 to $165, which is an increase of $9. Youth local, non-local per hour increases from $120 to $125, an increase of $5. And adult non-local per hour increases from $176 to $180, an increase of $4. Non-ice surface per hour increases from $40 to $45. Not-for-profit rate per hour increases from $30 to $35 per hour, and those are for areas in the building, like areas in the arena, not the ice surface. And then we have the upstairs semi-private area, which rentals for 30-minute increments increase from $30 to $35 an hour. And that's the area offset of the concession. Schedule J, the fire fees and charges. The charges for false alarm responses have been added to the 2024 fees and charges bylaw from bylaw 02/2018 Fire Services bylaw. These charges have all been increased, and the Fire Services bylaw is currently being reviewed by the Protective Services Manager and Administration for Cohesion. The hourly rate for hazardous material response is now based on the Alberta transportation rate. The charge for fire inspections has increased for commercial properties from $40 to $60, an increase of $20. The hourly rates for fire investigations have increased. The fire unit hourly rate has increased from $29.90 to $35.90, an increase of $6. And the supervisor hourly rate has increased from $70.18 to $75.18, an increase of $5. Third-party cost recovery, including but not limited to contracted security or investigations, will be charged at a cost with an additional 15% administration fee. Moving on to Schedule M, the library complex
Can we
rent.
just stop at J there?
Sorry, yep.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm just wondering, for this one in particular, just because we've had recent experience, there is reference here to contracted security and investigations, which would, I'm assuming, arise in a situation where insurance is involved and there's an investigation that requires more in-depth participation. I'm also wondering about the charge for water usage. Would that be in this schedule, or that would be separate?
That is actually separate on, no, it is on this one. It's on the next page in J, sorry. And water per cubic meter, it will be charged out for fire fighting as well at $2.70 per cubic meter. And while it is not our cost, it is not the full retail rate that we charge our residents or our businesses, as we have to, the way the trucks work in that, we have to use other measures than actually seeing the metered amount of water that gets pumped through the truck. So to err on the side of, I guess, caution, we don't charge it out at full retail.
So we can go back to Schedule J, Section 10.0.
Yep, the fire alarm response system.
I know that we've talked about this many times, and having our paid-on-call personnel show up at these false alarms, and are we collecting this at this time right now? Are we making these charges to residents after they've been notified time and time again? Because what we've seen is that the installer of their security system, or the network itself, has that as the first call when it goes off.
Yes, my understanding is that when we first brought this in, we had a large how their alarm systems work, that if it's for fire, that the fire department's called and they need to call and cancel. So the fire department has seen an increase. This is why it's coming back again, and why it's being put in the fees as charges bylaw. And while you see that the fire alarm response system, where it's maintained in accordance with the fire code, is no charge for your first offense, and if it's not, you're going to get charged right away.
So what I'm asking, is it standard operating practice of this organization that we bill like we say we're going to?
Yes, but we've had very, very few second offenses. So the few that we have billed out, but what we're seeing now is a huge uptake in first offenses again.
Okay, as long as we're there, because as long as every citizens of this town knows that it costs a lot more than $200 when everybody rolls out that fire department to get there, and it was your security company that programmed that call number in there.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so now moving on to Schedule M, the library complex rental fees. So the library gymnasium rental fees have been increased. Your half-day rentals have increased from $150 to $200, so an increase of $50. Full-day rentals have increased from $250 to $300, so again, an increase of $50. Overtime fees have been removed. Discounted rates for library rentals have decreased. Not-for-profits will receive 20% discount. It was previously 25%. Youth-based will receive a discount of 30%, previously 40%. And funerals will receive a discount of 20%, previously 25%. All right.
Go ahead, sure.
Thank you, Your Worship. What is the justification of reducing the discounts for nonprofits and for youth?
We're just kind of going with what our neighboring communities are doing as well, keeping us in line with them. So they've done surveys and actually called other places, and those are the discounts that they've been offering. Again, this is just, it's a way of building up revenue, and council has the ability to tell us no.
Well, I think we know that it costs more today than it did this time last year to operate those facilities. And we know what's coming with the unjust carbon tax that's gonna be forced upon us again, yet again, in the new year. And if we are continually standing by our prices, their percentages of losses on every one of our facilities.
We're not
increases.
increasing the price at the gym, we're decreasing what we offer nonprofits and youth-based programs. So what I'm getting at is that all of those costs that increase to us also increase to them. So we're downloading another little bit. I'm just trying to figure out why the justification of reducing the discounts. It seems like it's, because other communities are doing it, I guess is the reason.
Well, it's a cost recovery model is what we're looking at, or at least trying to stop the bleeding as much as we possibly can. So, I mean, you feel that, that taking it from 25 down to 20 is not reasonable? Because this is a good time to bring it up, Councilor Berry.
Well, on the long and short of things, I find it very rushed to get this amount of information in such short a period of time, when I thought that we used to do, or had previously said, bring it forward on one ledge, let us think about it for a period of time, bring it forward so we can have a decent discussion about things at another ledge, and then bring it forward for us to actually vote with informed decisions at a council meeting. And I'm finding at a loss where I received this yesterday. I looked at it some last night. I spent 2 or 3 hours going through it this morning. We have no managers or directors that can actually answer my questions today. But they want me to vote on this Monday night after trying to quickly get information that they might be blindsided on some of the things that I'd like to ask.
And it's not even all here.
Yeah, and yes, and it's not even
so
all here. And
I wouldn't recommend that we vote on this on Monday.
except that they want it in place by January the 1st for a bunch of it. You know, so I mean, and I'm not faulting administration here in a sense. All of a sudden, a bunch of illnesses have come up, but this is a tremendous amount of information for administration to go through in a very short time period as well.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it's very much tied to budget as well.
Yes, it's tied to budget, but some of these things I find, excuse me for interrupting, but some of these things I find actually are policy-based. And I'm being asked, do I want to change the policy of the way that we deal with certain things? This one only being one of them. But I mean, there's some other areas in here that I see it kind of policy-related. And we'll get to some of those schedules in a moment, but nobody's here to actually answer my questions.
Well, then Monday night's meeting may go long. When will you see the other schedules, the updates on the other schedules?
Well, I'm kind of hoping to have some people in the departments tomorrow, Thursday, to be able to update some of this. And what ultimately the other thing we can do is we can bring this back. Our next ledge is scheduled for January 2nd. It just means that we'll start the new year with the old fees, and the fees come into effect after the first ledge meeting, or, well, it may be after the first billing cycle then for utilities.
Yeah, well, if that's gonna be the case, then that'll be the case. I mean, because obviously, we don't have all the information here, and we're not going to, you know, we've said that we will have time, always make time when we're making changes for discussion. So we'll get it. I mean, we'll figure it out, and if changes are gonna be made based on what council decides, then that's the way we'll do it. So if there's enough staff that we can get the changes, the updates on the other schedules before the weekend, it would be nice that we could all have that information ready for us to go through. And if it takes a longer debate on Monday, and if it doesn't happen, it's just not gonna happen, we'll just wait till the first Tuesday.
And my goal is that the changes are made before the agenda goes out on Friday, so.
Okay.
I'd appreciate that, actually.
And you'll have someone speaking on support of the changes on the nonprofits, the percentage-wise, that from other municipalities is basically where they're at.
Yep, I
Okay,
can,
I appreciate that.
yep, I can have Dan here to do that, or sorry, Manager Kuzmic here to do that.
Okay, is there any other changes that you want to go through right now, CAO?
Well, we can finish with what's going on, and we can, it might highlight a few areas that council would like some answers to, and then I can be a little bit more prepared on Monday.
Yes, if I could just give, in a minute, if I go through a couple of questions that I have, then they could prepare.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. So we were finishing off with the Schedule M, the library complex. So we'll move on to Schedule N, which is the multiplex facilities fees and charges. Rates for the multiplex are increasing as follows. Non-ice surface per hour increases from $40 to $45 per hour. Not-for-profit rate per hour increases from $30 to $35 an hour. Upstairs semi-private area, the dining hall per hour increases from $30 to $35 hour, and not-for-profit rate per hour increases from $25 to $30 per hour. So an increase overall of $5 per each fee.
Is there going to be any increases for ice surface?
That is an agreement we have with the Heather Curling Club.
I thought the agreement was up at the end of this year, and for 2024, that we needed to update the agreement. That's what they told me at the last curling meeting.
Honestly, I have to look into that. I'm not sure.
Okay, can we look and see if that agreement
would know.
has ended at the end of this year?
Yep.
Thank you. I do have a bit of a problem with the nonprofit and the multiplex.
Okay.
So at the last curling meeting, it was brought up that the kitchen is a disaster. Nobody cleaned up that small kitchen downstairs. And I know that we have two main users in the summertime of that building, and their rent, if I'm not mistaken, is $0?
Yes, the Cultural Association and the Agricultural Society do
So
not.
they rent those facilities out, the kitchens, on their own for profit. And nobody does a walkthrough. Nobody takes a look at the stains in the new carpet downstairs that were all the spills around the floor. The kitchen is a terrible mess. And I go to a meeting, and they're talking about bonspiels coming up, and who's gonna clean that kitchen? Because they're trying to bring in a caterer to work the bonspiels, and they're not gonna wanna walk in that kitchen. Nobody wants to use that kitchen anyway, because it's just not set up. It's just like a stove from your house, and the power keeps going out in there, which has for years. Doesn't matter. I mean, I can take those complaints. But the fact that nonprofits are using those facilities for $0, charging rent to a caterer, and nobody has a damage deposit, nobody cleans it up, and the town gets blamed for it, I have a problem with that. So I think that if it's $0 rent for nonprofits, those two big ones, then they should have a damage deposit that comes along with it. And the expectation should be that if they're renting it out to a caterer, that they should do a walkthrough. And if not, they can expect a bill from the town. Which, by the way, we have to go and clean that kitchen, I guess.
Okay.
And see what we can do about those new stains in the floor downstairs and that new carpet just outside the kitchen.
Okay.
So, if we're gonna say that that building for nonprofits, especially the two big ones, is available for zero, we better put in something in there that says there will be damage deposits and there will be a walkthrough with before and after. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, we'll move on to Schedule O, municipal enforcement fees and charges. The following charges have been increased or added. The Level 1 Community Peace Officer hourly rate has increased from $83 to $86 per hour. That's a $3 increase. The patrol unit kilometer rate has increased from 0.77 cents to 79 cents. And we have a bylaw enforcement officer hourly rate has been added at $63. Okay. The administrative fee for property cleanup has increased based on Schedule C of Bylaw 17, 2018. A new administrative fee for requesting a review by council has been added at $100.
Can you explain those last two?
We have an administrative fee that we charge out after doing property cleanup, and that is for the administration department. It's to cover the costs of getting the cleanup crew, taking care of the billing, taking care of, because we obviously pay our contractors, so our contracts get paid and then we collect that. So it's all the busy work that we do for it. So there's an administrative fee put on the enforcement order. And then if they want it reviewed by council, this would be a new fee of $100.
So if somebody disagrees with the bill they receive, after proper notice and our bylaw department doing everything that they should have done, if they would like to bring it to council, there's a $100 fee.
Yes.
Okay? Everybody understand that one? Okay, thank you.
Okay. Then we have Schedule P, the parks and campground fees and charges. So this is the charges that have been added for the paddle boat rides at $5 per ride, which includes the GST. So actually, the actual charge is $4.70, I think. Private party rentals for the Pasanka Putt-Putt have been added at an hourly rate of $100.
How do you feel the campsite with power at $30 a night is?
My understand,
I can speak to that.
yes, please.
$30 a night, Your Worship, is, based on our research, fair, just simply because the Vegreville Municipal Campground does lack a few amenities at present time. For instance, not every site has its own fire pit. So based on comparables from within the region, and there aren't a ton in the region, it was the sort of lack of amenities, especially the fireplaces, that we felt keeping it $30 for another year at least is probably fair. We are trying to beautify that area on the cheap, as it were. Our team is looking for grants for tree planting to help offer some privacy. I know that Manager Kuzmik is looking at ways to affordably put in at least a few more campfires for each site. And next year, depending on how that goes, we'll look at potentially increasing. But at this rate, I would recommend we stay status quo.
It's fairly cheap.
It's,
Somebody that camps quite a bit.
you're right, it is incredibly affordable. With that being said, we were called on site several times last year during the Pasanka Festival especially. It was very, very hot, and we kept tripping power. So we didn't want to push the price until we had fixed a few of the issues on site. And if we get there, then we could potentially look at an increase next year.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, moving on to Schedule R, playgrounds and sports field fees and charges. And just a little bit of a disclaimer here, the current bylaw doesn't have any fees and charges listed. So the fees that you are seeing here are currently what we are charging out already. They just weren't actually put in the bylaw that recreation charges the user groups. So the rates for teams, tournaments, and minor ball have been added to the Riverview Ball Diamonds. Slow pitch teams will be charged $450 per team. Tournaments will be $20 per hour per diamond with 2-hour minimum rentals, and minor ball players will be charged at $10 per player per season. Something new this year, and this is kind of a pilot test program that we're going to try out. Private rentals will be offered for the outdoor rinks, Spray Park gazebo, Pesica Park gazebo, and the cookhouse kitchen, football field, and the tennis court at an hourly rate of $40 an hour per each location. There has been some inquiries in the past about, for example, the Spray Park renting a gazebo for a birthday party, because you can't rent the whole Spray Park, but at least you'll have a place where you can set up your presents and your cake, and the kids can have. So we thought we would try this and see what the response is from the public. The manager of Parks, Recreation and Facilities has some experience with this, and he realizes that there'd be certain booking hours. It wouldn't be available just to do a full booking, so make the space unusable for the public, but it's something new to try this year. And it allows people to have the opportunity to do something different if they wish.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Councillor Bowe.
Okay, yeah, this is a bit of a surprise to me, because the thing that I struggle with this is the gazebos are all donated by community groups around here, and they're available to the public at any time. So if we're gonna start a scheduling process, so are we gonna, when we have kids in the outdoor rink, or we're gonna have kids and family maybe set up at the gazebo, they don't know about the time that's scheduled, and they're gonna come here and we're gonna kick that family out, or we're gonna kick a kid off the ice. When these community groups have come together to build all these things for the community. So actually have a really big problem with this part. I understand the part of making money, but maybe we need to look in our departments and look for efficiencies and get some more money that way, because I think we have a social responsibility for the general public to continue and be able to access those things that the community builders have actually given to the community for anybody to use at any time. So that's where I'm coming with that one.
And this is not so much a way to make money. This is because they've had inquiries about booking. They've had inquiries about booking the ODR for a shinny game, a family reunion shinny game, or in the summertime booking it for a ball hockey tournament. This type of thing, like I said, our manager does have some experience with doing this at his prior posting, and is very aware of that there's certain time of day that there's high usage by the public and everything like this. And again, it's just a pilot project that we thought we would bring in from the inquiries that they've had, and if council's not interested in entertaining it, that's fine as well.
Go ahead.
I'd like to know if the community groups that put these facilities up have been contacted, as well as the business sponsors. I'm curious to know if anybody was talked to in those groups.
Well, as being a partner in a lot of those projects that were done and stuff, I don't really have a problem with this. I mean, because it's there for usage of everybody whenever they want. But if somebody wants to book it, and I've seen arguments at the ODR, and somebody, where we'd like to have something here, and nope, it's full access to everybody in the community. So I don't really have a problem with this. The fact is, we have to post it down there that this 2 hours or whatever somebody's using for a family event and stuff. Because no matter what, there's a lot of cost and a lot of money raised to go into these things. But if you take a look at the maintenance and the money the town puts into them, just the spray park alone last year, what it cost us was crazy. And you know why? Because that plumbing system was designed terrible. The drainage in there was terrible. And it fell to the town to pick up all of those bills. And what we spend every day I mean, I didn't even see this coming, but if somebody wants to actually book it, and we go post it, that there's, I personally, Councilor Bullock, I don't have a problem with this, even though I've been a part of a lot of the fundraising for a lot of these facilities that we have, and been over hands-on building it. Go ahead.
Thank you, Worship. I'm going to echo Councillor Bullock's concerns, because, I mean, when they were being built by the community groups, and the deal was the town would take them over, the town knew at that time they're going to have expenses. But it just seems to me as, how are we going to work out the scheduling for a family that has a shinny game because they've rented it, but somebody is driven from the south side over to there and suddenly discovers that their kids can't put on skates and go out and have shinny. To me, this is a policy situation, and I would like to have had discussions of it before it was ever proposed in something like this. I'm looking at all of the other things. So this means that the skate park out there that Rotary has built for us, a couple of years from now, it's going to be taken over. So we're going to rent it out to bus loads that are coming from other communities?
If they drive from another community, Councillor Barry, their expectation is that they would have full access to the park. If they're making a video or if they're having a competition and stuff here. I mean, this is the way the facilities will end up being used periodically. I mean, the ODR, we've already had leagues play out of there, like where they have booked time to run their leagues out of the outside arena. I mean, it's nothing new, but if we're going to go and allot those times to them, then there will be a booking fee. There was a street hockey league that ran out of there, and those times were allotted to that league. So, go ahead, Councillor.
Yeah, my questions would be from this and the next schedule that's coming up too, and I guess my concern is more around the philosophy of being able to weigh the need to be able to provide opportunities to recreate to our public. At the same time, we're trying to do cost recovery, and I would say, just based on some of the feedback, and I'm sorry, this is more referring to the next item in terms of the rental at the rec facility, the disconnect between the booking process, the change in fees, and the access to the public. Some user groups have been using the facilities for decades, literally. You know, it's kind of becomes a historical memory of taking lessons at a certain facility or being able to use the outdoor rink, for example, just at whim, at large, at any time. And so I guess there's two parts to this that are concerning to me, is that how do we navigate the booking in a way that doesn't pit user groups or individuals against one another? And how do we still be able to have some cost recovery? And I guess that's where we need to be able to have some of these conversations, because this, I think, is more about policy and a philosophy. And so even, again, moving on to the next one with the recreation facility, the idea that we're trying to offer classes that are providing more income to the municipality. And we did ask that our recreation and facilities manager be able to promote and provide some better return on investment for some of our recreation facilities, but at what cost? And I guess that's kind of where I'm weighing that out. You know, to my mind, booking the outdoor rink for specific leagues, that might be something that's a little bit more easy to regulate than a free-for-all at the spray park. I mean, if any of you have been there on the plus 35 days of the summer, there are a lot of people there, and pitting groups against one another, that, you know, so somebody knows how to book and has the inside scoop to be able to book the facility, and somebody else shows up with a birthday party with just as many or more people, and they don't know that, and I mean, this happens already. So how do we as governors of recreation and facility opportunities, be able to balance that is a bit of a challenge. And I don't see using our summer students as referees in this instance as the best use of their time either. So I think maybe this part needs to be massaged a little bit for my comfort.
Go ahead, Councillor Lund, go first.
Your worship, I need to be excused for the rest of the meeting as I have an important appointment I need to attend.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Curtis.
Thank you very much. I mean, again, I'm all for this in some respect because, as the mayor said, this has happened in the past. We have no problem charging a fee for somebody to book out the mini golf. I don't really see it as any different, given the opportunity. People drive here from Saskatchewan to use the mini golf. It's not available right at that moment because there's a party there or something. It has to be done well and there needs to be notice, but I don't see it any different. And it is a cost recovery basis. You know, if you want to have the Whibbit at your party, it's an extra fee. Or if you want to use this, it's an extra fee. If you want a hamburger, it's $4. If you want it with bacon, it's $5. Like, these are important. The cost of running things, the cost of, again, carbon tax, everything going up, you need to recover it somewhere. It's always going to be the end user in some way, but we need to also look out for ourselves in the same time. So I think this can work. I don't know if it works exactly how it's stated now, but I'm all for this, and I think it'll work.
Councillor Bullock.
To the point of the, like the paddle boats or the Pesca-Putt, we've invested the money and put it into it. I'm talking about the user groups that have donated these things to the community. So, because we all know there's people in the community that can't afford stuff. So certain things they're not gonna pay to do. So that's why some of these things are free. So I just see the part of this being a conflict on some of these things when somebody's showing up, doesn't know about booking or anything like that, and that being an issue in itself, causing arguments. And you know what happened just when we tried to do the Pesca-Putt, what happened there. So consultation is probably one way to go about this, but I can't see myself supporting this going forward at the moment.
Okay, well, we don't come anywhere near recovering our costs, believe me, on the ODR alone. I mean, the spray park, a whole different thing. But other facilities we rent for parties that we still lose money at. I mean, this is a booking fee is basically what it is, and I don't really have a problem with it. Again, but we'll see. We'll go through this the next meeting, because once, you know, a group in the community builds something, sometimes that's the easy part. It's the maintenance. It's the keeping it going all the time is what, you know, and if someone just builds you something, gives it to you, and then where do you allocate the money that costs the operations? I mean, if you want to pick and choose about where in parks and rec we find it acceptable to charge a small fee to recover a little bit, and this is what we've tasked, you know, our rec department with, basically, that to start getting more use out of our facilities. I mean, I know we told them that, and that's why we have a new recreation manager and stuff in place. But, I mean, if you don't want to support it, no one's telling anybody they have to support any of this. Councillor Berry.
I see both sides of it. I mean, the aspect that I'm looking at is I see some of the things that I'm just not certain. The gazebo at the park being listed out. How does that fit in with trying to encourage tourism when they come but they can't go and sit in the gazebo because it's there for a party? And there's just different things that some of them I could agree with. I can understand the outdoor skating rink being on a schedule, but I'd like to see that schedule, and I'd like to know more about that schedule before I'm suddenly presented a bylaw to pass that says there's a fee for it. I mean, like I'm saying, it's a policy discussion that I don't think is appropriate while we're being asked to pass the bylaw that implements the policy that administration brought to us. So I mean, like, that's the aspect of it. How is the public going to view some of these changes that are being implemented? And take a look at the presentation we just received today, where we have a certain segment of our population that feel home insecure, and their annual income is quite low. And the third thing they said about this community was recreation and parks. So, I mean, obviously, we have a segment of our community that wants to be able to use various areas of our recreation and parks without having to be tackled with a fee. They're entitled to have birthday parties too. So somebody can rent the gazebo down at the park, but somebody else has to throw a blanket on the grass.
Okay, so
Yeah,
if
so
we,
it's just,
if we didn't have a booking fee, say for the gazebo, and you're there before me, I come down and I'm like, hey, I'd like to use this. You need to leave.
No, I don't think it's a matter of saying they have to leave, but I think if there's 3 tables in there, I think 3 different groups can be in there at one time if they can't get along when there's something's wrong.
Well, I don't
You know, I mean, so I mean, like the
Pretty
aspect
small
is,
birthday party with, it's a very small gazebo. To
well,
me,
then maybe it isn't appropriate for a birthday party.
but if you feel it is, and if you went to the town and said, I'd like to use that for a birthday party, I really would. What if nobody else even shows up? You know, I mean, again, if you pay the $40, we would post that this gazebo is now going to be used at these hours.
I just would feel a whole lot more comfortable if I saw the philosophy behind it before I'm asked to vote on it. I'd like to see how it's going to actually function.
Do you know what the schedule is, the ODR is?
Wide open
Yeah.
from dawn to dusk.
They tried having, when I first started, that there would be just general skating at certain hours, and then there would be hockey sticks and pucks allowed. Well, that didn't go over very good. You know why? Because everybody just showed up and did whatever they wanted. And so the schedule went out the window. But if you wanted, if I had 20 people and I knew they were coming a month from now, and I wanted to have a shinny game, for $40, I could book it for an hour and have my shinny game, and everybody else could come back on it. Or I went to use it and tried to have my shinny game, and it wasn't booked, then I would try to have my game around other people that show up that are just there for a skate.
Well, at least what I'm saying is I'm feeling a little better right now that we're having some sort of a debate about it instead of just passing it on Monday night.
Yeah, at least something.
Yeah, well,
I mean, I think it's deserving to the public that the council is actually discussing this and weighing pros and cons before they're asked to make a decision on the fee that is being presented to us in a bylaw. So I guess that's where I'm coming from, is I just want to have more information to know that I'm actually making a decision that's going to serve the public, not an interest. You know, so that's all I'm asking for is
that's exactly what we're doing. And again,
well, if we didn't bring it up here and challenge it, it wouldn't have gotten done. It would have come to us Monday night for 1, 2, 3. And I think it's beholden to us to actually challenge what's going on.
exactly, and we can do that on Monday night, or we can do it on the first Tuesday. But, I mean, we're discussing it right now, in a working meeting here right now. This is the process. Okay.
All right, okay, moving along.
So, before we go any further,
Yep.
is there any other information regarding these fees on these certain facilities that we need before the next discussion?
I can have Manager Kuzmic put together his thoughts and ideas on the scheduling. I know we did have a brief discussion at SMT regarding it. There is a piece where some of these, for example, like the ODR, and that would be added to Intelli as part of the online booking program on our website. Of course, all of these new pilot program projects and stuff like that come with a lot of communication out to the public. Parks, Recreation Facilities has been aware they've ruffled a few feathers, so they are working very hard on their communications. So there is that, but I can see if he can put together something to go out to council with the agenda on Monday to explain some of how this would work in the background.
Okay, yeah, if he puts it in writing.
Okay.
what his thoughts are, that's fine. I just don't want him coming here as the manager and trying to defend against council his policy.
No, these are, again, this is all up for council debate, and it's all up for council's approval. If you guys say no, we don't, and if you say yes, we do. These are just ideas that come forth from senior management to try to offset or increase the revenue for some of our departments.
I get it.
All right. Okay, moving on to Schedule S, recreation facilities fees and charges. Pool rental rates have been revised to create different rates for use with either the water side or the Whibbit. Hourly rates for private rentals with the slide have increased $5 to $10 depending on the size of rental. Rates for swimming pool lessons, rates for school swimming lessons have increased $6 to $7 per student. Public preschool.
Is that a $1 increase? Or $6 or $7?
I think there's two different rates.
You said 6 to 7. Does that mean it went up $1 or went up? One of them went up 6, the other went up 7.
I think one went up
Okay.
to 6 and one went up to 7. Sorry, I don't have the old bylaw open to double check this. Public preschool swimming lessons have been renamed, but no changes have been made to the fees. The fitness studio will now be booked for a minimum of 60 minutes as opposed to the previous 30 minutes at a rate of $35 per hour.
Go ahead, Councilor Rudick.
So this is where we've had some queries, and I had brought forward a question quite a while ago with the last increment increase to rental of facilities at the pool, for example, the dance studio. And there have been user groups that have been longtime renters, and our system has not accommodated long-term renters in a way that's maybe straightforward or clear. And I know that there are some ongoing concerns that have been addressed to administration about long-term renters that did not have access to a time and a location that literally has been used for decades for some classes. So I don't see it on here, but what I've been told is that the philosophy is that the priority is given to town bookings, and that council has given that directive. And of course, that's perhaps not the way that it was worded from council to administration to the public, but that's how they've received that information. And I think here is important for us to, again, understand what our philosophy is that having each of our departments look for ways to be able to increase their revenue is a little bit different than displacing user groups. So, for example, if I rent the studio for $35 and I have 10 students attending, I'm a small business person offering fitness classes, I'm making money. That's different than the pool running a fitness class and charging each of the attendees on the punch pass, which potentially makes more money for the facility at that time. So I guess maybe we need to weigh in as council what our philosophy is that is one more important than the other? Is it more important to have 10 individual attendees to a class paying the town for a recreation class, or do we prefer to have longtime instructors that have provided fitness classes of a variety of offerings, operate as small business owners and offer that? So I guess those are two different applications, and again, they each have merit, no different than our previous discussion about trying to decide whose needs are most important and where our desire to increase revenue fits into that equation. So,
and I can talk to you about how the long-term rentals and that work. Prior to the current manager, it was always just a verbal agreement, and you just booked it. And I shouldn't even say prior to the previous manager, prior to our recreational programmer that has been brought on to increase to offer programs to the public. It has always just been a verbal, you go in and book and everything. Now, those long-term rentals and everything, they're going to start being contracts, where there's a specific start date and a specific end date. Everybody's aware of it. You don't have to go in 3 months and book. If you're running a 6-month class, you get a contract for 6 months, that type of thing. And that should hopefully eliminate all these current issues we're having with the booking of the facilities. Because part of it is when recreation is going ahead and doing their programming, they look ahead to see, and there's nothing in that spot, they take it, unaware that somebody's had that spot for the last 2 years, but it hasn't been booked yet. So we're hoping that's going to start alleviating some of these issues. And as for the philosophical question, that is a debate that council has to have with what they would like to do with that.
Thank you for the explanation, because it has been brought forward to me, and I know even one of the opportunities that I utilize, they've been bumped for essentially the month of November for birthday parties. And I mean, this is no different than when we first moved back to Vegreville. I found it appalling that the ballet dance studio was not used for dance classes. It was used for everything but. It was booked for meetings. And again, at that time, the council of the day, many years ago, had worked with the community to provide a dance studio that was intended for dancing, not for meetings. So we do have a variety of facilities, and I guess that's where we can offer different opportunities, like, I'm going to be specific, kickboxing or yoga can be offered different locations. We've got other opportunities and other facilities in town, and I think probably I appreciate very much that we have a recreation programmer who's very engaged and offering different things to the community, and I've heard great things about the classes too. My challenge is, again, just making sure that we're not pitting user groups against each other, based on our change in our booking system, and potentially council's desire that we've given a directive to our staff to make more revenue. So the unintended consequence is making yoga attendees upset. And literally, it is like a time immemorial Wednesday evening class. And so
Actually, I've had the conversation as well, and we're not without fault as well, but regardless of how it's come about, we're working on solutions, and we're doing the best we can with the facilities we have. Facilities have been offered, and we've looked at one of the things that the recreation programmer is really, really trying to do is make sure that the library gymnasium is always booked, to always have something in that space as well too, because it's an underutilized space. So we realize we are going to make mistakes, and they're going to come to fruition, and we are going to come to, it's not going to be without growing pains, but we will get there. We're not looking to pit anybody against anybody, and we're going to try and work with all the user groups. It's just, unfortunately, sometimes you aren't aware of this until there's a problem.
Well, once we get some signed contracts from private individuals that are running their own classes, I mean, I'm sure that'll help, and then we'll have it. I mean, if nobody, kind of hard sometimes that nobody knew, but if they've been there that long. But I don't blame the programmer. But again, growing pains, we'll get through it, and we have asked as a council that let's try to get our facilities up and utilized, because we're heating them, we're paying the bills in them anyway, so hopefully we can get through this. Any more on that one, Councillor?
No. And I do want to clarify that I appreciate the acknowledgement that the town is going to be fallible. We're not perfect, and the understanding that clear communication is really how we prevent these kind of challenges, and that's kind of highlighting what my colleagues over here were talking about. Some of the challenges that the unintended consequence of trying to derive revenue can cause conflict in a way that we would want to avoid if we can. And some of that is just, I appreciate the approach that we're not perfect and we're making some mistakes and we're going to learn from them, and the contracts should make a difference too.
Okay, moving on.
Sorry, Councillor Barry.
Yes, Your Worship. If, I'll just ask one question here. Maybe we can find out the information, and again, as well as I apologize that you're actually caught today without support that could just quickly answer some of these questions. On this one here, the previous bylaw under pool rentals referred to an actual per hour rate, so that it was 1 to 50 people was $125 per hour. What I'm seeing here now is 1 to 50 people per hour is $130 under the slide and $150 under the Whibbit. So are we changing the language that you rent the pool and get the slide for $130? Or you rent the pool and get the Whibbit for $150? Well, this is what I'm trying to figure out. 'Cause if you take a look at it, there's two columns there. It just says pool rental, public group rental, 1 to 50 people per hour, slide, $130. Whibbit in the second column, $150.
I see your point. You'd almost expect
And-
a third column to say
Well,
both.
what if I want both? Or can you rent the pool without the slide and without the Whibbit?
Yes, you can rent the pool without the slide, without the Whibbit. You cannot have both the Whibbit and the slide at the same time due to the size of the Whibbit.
Yeah, no,
So,
I'm gathering that's
yeah.
to be the case. But I'm just thinking that it seems that it should be the pool rental, it's $125 per hour. As an extra, you can have the slide put on, I guess it for $5. Or as an extra, you could have the Whibbit for $20. I'm just trying to figure out how this is reading, because it's just that it's changed from a per hour rental to either slide or Whibbit. So you automatically, if you rent the pool, if you're 101 to 50 people and you rent the pool and you want the slide, then it's $130 per hour?
Yeah, there's no just for the pool itself. Yes, I see that now.
And what did it used to be? You said it used to be 150?
125 an hour.
I'm just trying to figure out
No,
whether.
and that's
So
right.
basically,
There-
the slide is either thrown in free or the Whibbit is thrown in free.
Well, and the slide probably, yeah, because I think
So
the slide
first one-
was
the first
always
one
just
is
included.
pool including slide, 130.
Yeah,
Pool
and,
including Whibbit, 150.
yes, and I think, because the prior fees and charges bylaw only said pool rental and never talked about the slide.
Yes, I know it didn't.
So I'm guessing that the pool rental, the 125 included the slide. So now they're just saying, so the pool rental with the slide is 130. And
What
then
if the
with
slide's
Whibbit.
down like it normally is?
If it's down like it normally is, then we'll add a third column for just the
You
pool
know, I
only.
hate to say it like that, but
No.
it is getting to the point.
No,
that
and,
it's-
well, you know what, in all honesty, everything wears out
Yep.
eventually.
Yeah, no,
But
Slide itself is still good.
the slide is good, it's the motors, yes.
now we're discovering this, the
And
Okay,
the-
electricity.
the
So-
power.
So if the slide is not working, it would be 125.
We will get clarification, and we'll either add a third column for pool alone, or we will
discount.
just on here, yeah, we'll see what the policy is.
Or if the slide isn't
is
working, you
down,
get the Whibbit for the same price as if it was a slide.
Yeah, we'll see.
And I recognize it can't all be explained on a schedule.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm assuming that there'd be better literature
Yeah, there's,
to the public.
yeah, well, yeah, there should be procedures for
Yeah.
the aquatic staff that are taking the reservations and the bookings, so they can able them to explain to the public that, okay, our slide is down at this time, so this and this is the options, or,
Now, it's just a philosophy of, I just noticed the change from the one year to the next year, and I was just, so, and anyway, thank you.
yeah.
Okay,
Okay. Now, unfortunately, I lost my notes. Okay, so we will move on to the social center facility fees and charges, which is Scheduled V. And currently, right now, there are no changes to the social center facility fees and charges. However, the discounted rate for funerals and nonprofit organization has been revised. The discount rate now is 20% rather than previous 25%. And again, that's falling on the discussion that Councillor Barry brought up earlier. It'll be up to council's discretion whether you would like to go with the 20 or remain with the 25. Schedule W, the solid waste fees. Now, here are items that were brought forward as increases in our 2024 draft budget. So this is where we will see these changes take effect if the budget is passed as presented on Monday. So the residential and non-residential sanitary, I went to utilities. So Schedule W, the solid waste fees. The residential garbage collection fee is increasing from $7 to $9, an increase of $2. This is part of the $4.80 increase on the utility bills proposed at council during the budget meetings. Then we'll move on to Schedule X, because that includes utilities fees and charges, which is also part of the increase to the monthly billing. The residential and non-residential sanitary sewer charge per month increases from $4.70 to $7, an increase of $2.30. This is the second part of the $4.80 increase on utility bills proposed to council during the budget meetings. The maximum service charge for sanitary sewer per month for residential has been increased from $12.40 to $14.70, which is an increase of $2.30. And this is directly correlated to usage. We have a max amount of usage that we charge out for, and once you hit that, so the limit would be $14.70. The flat charge fee per water bill service has increased from $6.50 to $7, an increase of 50 cents. This is the third part of the $4.80 increase on utility bills proposed to council. So in summary, the budget increases related to the $4.80 per month flat charge include residential garbage fee, an increase of $2, comes to $54,000. The sanitary sewer fee service charge, the increase of $2.30 comes to $62,250. The water flat charge of 50 cents equals $13,500. So the total annual increased revenue that the municipality will see is $129,750. And what this means for the consumer at home is that your without water, like without your water fees, excuse me, your flat rate charge for your utility bill is $43 a month.
and some of the other problems that we've seen in utilities will be addressed in the new year.
Excuse me, yes, we're working on that.
Okay, go ahead.
I appreciate in this section the costing out of the increase in fees. One thing that I didn't see here, and that just because this reminded me, one of the things that we decided last year in our budget was the charge for paper utility bills and paper tax notifications, and we haven't heard back on the reporting, and I know that comes in the quarterly variance reporting potentially, but it might be nice to have that as a reflection, just not necessarily with this fees and charges, but also to be able to understand more completely the impact of the decisions that we're making, and also understanding that we are trying to increase our revenue, and this demonstrates right here that the nominal cost to residents and businesses, for example, is actually making a difference to our bottom line in a way that's important to consider.
I do know that the finance department is working on that information we still have a December billing that we need to get through, and from there we'll be able to tell you what the overall, from the implementation to the end of the year, what we've had for uptick in paperless statement enrollment, and what the increase for that $2.50 has netted to for 2023.
And again, hopefully in the new year, we'll encourage more people to get on the virtual town hall site and try to get on there, because basically, we don't want to charge them $2.50 for that, but.
No, and that $43 per month does not include the $2.50 paper fee. I excluded that because not everybody receives that, and the goal is to not.
Okay, so hopefully we'll see those other schedules, the updates before the weekend, and we'll have some more explanations from managers on Monday night. And if we don't get if we still need more information, we will not be voting on it, so.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, go ahead.
Thank you, Worship. So I just have, you've actually answered the bulk of the questions as we went through here that I did have. On Schedule I, the Event Center, I didn't see anything related to holidays. So we have a Monday to Friday rental rate, and we have a Saturday, Sunday daily rental rate. But I'm wondering if there's any consideration to what is it if a person wants the long weekend? You know, so now you've got a Saturday, Sunday, which I think it's 200 compared to 175, something like that. Okay, I lost it. I closed the wrong button here.
Monday to Friday is 175, and Saturday to Sunday is 200.
If it's a long weekend, is the Monday just treated as a
The
day?
Monday would be treated as a weekend rate because that's overtime for our staff.
But it isn't recognized in the fees. I'm just a question as to whether that needs clarity so that it's Saturday, Sunday, and holidays.
Okay, we can add that in. Yeah, because it would definitely fall on a weekend rate.
Yeah,
Because it would.
that's what I was
Yeah,
expecting.
it's overtime for the staff if the staff have to go out, so.
Okay. One of the other ones that I had was fire fees, J. The very first item, sorry, I had to go to
No, that's okay.
the other bylaw
Yep.
because
The other
it says
bylaw,
as to,
yeah, and the other bylaw has some issues that we've,
but it's the aspect that the fire and fees charges, this one lists open air fire permit as defined by bylaw 02/2018, which by definition means that it's a document in the form prescribed by the town of Vegreville or the fire department as applicable, which implies that there's two permits. And if we take a look at 7.1, it refers in the fire department, or I'm losing my train of thought here, the bylaw 02-2018, section 7.1, refers to an open air fire permit. But section 7.2, which is referenced in this bylaw, actually refers to an open-air recreational fire pit permit. So it's, again, implying that there's two permits. So I'm trying to get it figured out here, and I'm
Okay.
not really meaning this to be bad, but
No,
do I first need to get a fire pit permit, which allows me to have the structure within which to put a fire? And then do I have to get a following permit that allows me to put the fire in that structure?
no, and this is some
Because I think the
issue- this
definitions
is-
here are a little bit wrong.
Yeah, no, and this is why the fire services bylaw will be coming up. We have found some issues with it. Basically, what this relates to, the open air fire permit is for your recreational at-home fire pit. You need.
The structure.
The structure itself, it needs to be, you need to have a permit to have a fire in your fire pit in town.
So
And what
instead
that
of,
means-
instead of an open-air fire permit, this one should actually be making reference to an open-air recreational fire pit permit.
Yes, and we can make that change, but the change may actually be made into the fire services bylaw. But that's, we'll get the semantics right on that, but basically what it stands for is, if you want to have a backyard fire pit, you
Yeah.
need to have it permitted, because we need to ensure that, that you are following the regulations on how far it is away from any kind of
Structure, fence.
structure,
That
flammable
all comes
material, et cetera, et
underneath
cetera, et cetera. But the other
It's
side
just
of
that
it
it's
is part of this permit also tells you what you can and cannot burn in it.
Yes.
So that if you go ahead and throw a tire in your backyard fire pit, you will get charged, because you're only allowed to burn clean wood. And that's part of that. So, but I'll get,
Just check the
Protective
semantics
service
on
man-
it so that it's,
I'll get the protective service manager or the fire chief to look at this here this week, and we'll get this squared away for Friday when that goes out.
okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Or? Okay, we will be talking about the event center in the new year. If we don't have a plan coming up, we're gonna have to maybe figure out just closing the facility until we come up with something, because putting $60,000 a year into running that facility, heat and everything else doesn't make a lot of sense, so. Until we come up, we'll talk about it in the new year, and we don't really have any bookings, anything going forward there, so. Okay, so hopefully, and if not, I mean, if the rest of them are sick and they don't get those other schedules done, it's just not gonna get done, that's all.
Well, and like as I said, stated earlier, the other thing we can do is pass the portions that council's happy with, leave the rest, and then do an amending bylaw later on in the year when we have some things figured out.
Excellent. Okay, next up is Brownlee Emerging Trends.
Yes, I wanted to bring this up in front of council. Brownlee Emerging Trends has sent out their dates, and they have opened registration. So if council could let Leslie know if they wish to attend, we can get everybody registered for that event on Thursday, February 15th in Edmonton.
I'm in. Oh, go ahead.
I'd be in via virtual assistant, because I think we should probably look at it. I'll try and save money in so many different departments. Virtual is probably the way to go for most of us. That way, not putting a burden on the taxpayer for myself going there and charging $200 for an out-of-town meeting on top of the 190 in person. I'll just do the 130 and do it virtually. Not saying that fits for everybody, but that fits for me.
Okay, thank you very much. I know myself personally that I will be attending. Did you get everybody else? Okay, County of Minburn recreational grant agreement. Everybody's had a chance to go through it.
All right, so the background on this is Town Council and County and Minburn Council have agreed to increase the recreational grant funding by 3% in 2023 and 3% in 2024. Negotiations for a new agreement will take place in 2024 after the results of the ACP grant funding regarding the regional recreational feasibility study are confirmed. The financial implications, the 3% increase equates to an additional $9,285 in 2023 and an additional $9,563.55 in 2024. This contribution from the county supports the operating and maintenance costs associated with the town's facilities and programs. Communication strategy is once the agreement is signed, administration will notify the County of Minburn administration and forward the agreement to the county for completion. So the options are to accept the 3% increase at the December 11th, 2023 council meeting or request revisions to the agreement prior to signing.
Okay, so we'll sign that on Monday. Anybody have any questions regarding the agreement? It's pretty straightforward.
And this is just an amending agreement to the initial ICF agreement that we had that expires.
Okay, thank you. We'll start, Councillor Curtis.
Thank you very much. Not too much for me, pretty quiet. Just talk about the Christmas parade there. Lots of people out, which was great. The only one thing I heard was that I think there's only 13 or 14 floats, so people are probably looking for a few more floats, and that's been brought up at the tourism board meeting to look at how we can try and encourage a little bit more participation next year. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Riddick.
I was unable to attend the parade, so it was very nice to come back later that weekend and see all the lights on. I've had some comments about the new lights at the Hesinka Park on the trees, which is quite lovely. So that's nice to see that amplified display there. I did want to bring forward a concern that came forward. I'm on the CALS board now, following Councillor Bullock and coming back there after I've been there, I don't know, 12 years ago, I guess, as part of the Child Development Coalition at that time. But it has been brought forward that there are some challenges in terms of the selling off of the subsidized housing facility here in town and the resulting impact to some of the families that are at CALS, and just wanted to bring forward some of the concerns that there are a lot of different people that use a lot of different housing in the community, and the fact that we are losing some of our young families because they can't afford to live in the community and they're having to move elsewhere is a bit of a concern, particularly when the preschool and CALS are finding that both their programs are completely subscribed. The preschool is very full, and we want to, that's kind of who we want to bring to the community as young families to be able to populate our schools. So just wanted to bring that to council's attention. And also wanted to just say thank you again. I did raise the question before about some of the recreational programming, and I did want to say thank you that the CAO was available to answer those questions directly. So that was appreciated because it's not an easy conversation to have. So thank you.
Okay, Councillor Bullock.
Thank you. Heard a couple of comments about the lights at the Egg Park as well, and they were good. Had good comments on that, so great to see. Looks good. I've noticed people are going there and taking pictures with the lights too. So it's out there. And another thing that came up is the with the ice forming everywhere, and there was people on Sunday that were skating on the Egg Park pond, and it's posted the danger thin ice. So do we know if the ice is actually ready now, or?
The Parks Rec and Facility Manager was sending people out this week to take a look at the ice. We are aware that we've had quite a few people going out onto the surfaces, and we've been, I know the communication department has been working hard at keeping those posts front and center. Unfortunately, it's very hard to stop them, but we should have some, we're hoping to have some good news as long as the weather stays below freezing for longer than a day.
Doesn't look good.
I did notice that the sign where it was posted is great in the parking area. You pull up right in front of it. But where they're walking in, there's just an opening through the cattails and just going onto the ice, and it's further to the east. So where these individuals were parked, I believe, was kind of towards that side, not in the actual parking part area. So just observation.
Thank you for that.
Councillor Barry.
Thank you. Actually, I don't have anything.
Okay, well, I have had some inquiries regarding some misinformation on some social media sites in town regarding Prosperity Park and how it was financed and how we put the youth of our community in jeopardy with the $12 million loan payment that we got coming. I would just like everybody to understand that this is no place that, social media site is no place to get your information. We certainly have spent 5 years raising the money to build that park. The town's contribution will be the previous debenture that we had on the TransCanada building. That is what will be in for the taxpayers, and I feel that's a very good situation. We took and put a building back on the tax roll and our part in this. So, you know, it takes 5 years to raise the money and build one of these, and we're 75% done on the build, and we're working very hard to get our anchor tenant in there, and we are get inquiries every day, and we're meeting with different industry leaders from around the world. We're hosting them here and stuff. So if you're getting your information from a certain social media site in town, please don't believe anything that they're saying, because the negativity that surrounds this park right now, where we are the envy of most municipalities that I talk to, and it's kind of funny, you know, some of these people are saying this bold-faced lies. You know, we need a lot of housing and stuff to move forward with these companies moving here. You know, and if you're a house builder and putting up negative comments, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But that's the way the world turns, so I just want everybody to know nothing that was said there is true. And I do appreciate those who put their names at least behind the comments, those ones that are anonymous. We'll deal with that at some other time. So anyway, is there any other business? Oh, you would like to give do you have any highlights you'd like to go through?
Sorry, yes, actually, I have a couple things.
Okay.
So just some highlights from the last legislative meeting. Attended a very Vegreville Christmas lighted parade. It was wonderful to see that many people out. The weather had a lot to do with it, but there was lots of people out there, and that was fantastic. I took part in a core audit interview for our annual safety audit. All the departments have been working hard finalizing the budgets for last Thursday's meeting. We've hired a new bylaw officer to fill the temporary position, and I'm going to apologize right now because I know I'm going to butcher his name, but his name is Gurpreet Dahanyu. Starts on January 2nd. So it'll be nice to have some bylaw back in the community. Attended the MD of Minburn Foundation's Lodge Redevelopment Assessment presentation along with council and along with the CAOs and council members from the County of Minburn, Manville, and Innisfree. Attended the RCMP hall meeting where their Staff Sergeant Folk was very well spoken and had lots to say about the what's going on in our community. It was very informative. Attended the staff Christmas party, and throughout the past 2 weeks, there's been a few issues that have surfaced and have shown areas for improvement within our internal processes and with our bylaws. And so plans are being made to bring resolutions forward with changes to policies and bylaws in the new year. So we're already working into 2024 for you guys.
Excellent.
That's it.
I received an email, and I forgot to bring it up, but it's, I'll read it. Good evening, Mayor Tim McPhee. I am emailing you on behalf of Vegreville Composite High School to invite you and/or town council representatives to our 6th annual holiday lunch taking place on Tuesday, the 19th. The lunch will begin at approximately 11 a.m. and will take place at the VegComp cafeteria until approximately 12:15. Our goal still stands for every student from the VCHS to be able to have a free holiday meal. We will have our culinary arts students and teachers, Chef Nancy Botash, preparing the meal for all the students and special guests. We'll be inviting Trustee Randy Foots and the RCMP. You are all invited to be part of the serving line or to sit with staff and students and interact. Pictures will be taken and used in the newspaper and social media. Feel free to call me at school to reply by email. Thank you, Holly Wawa. So it's 11 o'clock, December the 19th. Is there anybody that would like to join me? Okay. 2. Councillor Bullock.
I'm not sure yet.
Okay.
Is that to help serve?
Yeah.
I'll try and be there at 11. Yeah.
Okay, so I will let them know that, I'll just say that we're at least 4 councillors.
Looks like I can.
Okay, I'll say at least 5, and I will get back to Holly on that. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, with that being said, is there any other business of council? We have one item to deal with in closed session, so I'd take a motion to go into closed session. Councillor Curtis makes the motion. All those in favor? Carried at 5:15.